My little conversation with a nice gentleman named Vladimir Putin. But we had a good talk, and I think that progress is being made. 5,000 young soldiers are being killed every single week on average. Can you believe 5,000? And it's actually a number probably worse than that.
The conversation with President Donald Trump indeed took place and lasted more than 2 hours. I would like to note that it was very informative and very frank, and overall, in my view, very useful in this regard.
For U.S. President Donald Trump, yesterday's phone call with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, was a serious attempt at convincing the leader to end the war in Ukraine. On the other hand, the 2-hour-long conversation might have been just another run-of-the-mill discussion for Putin, who squeezed in Trump amid his tight schedule. It is likely that both the leaders had expected different outcomes from the phone call. On the one hand, Trump held the phone call from the Oval Office and had previewed the call on his social media platform, Truth Social. On the other hand, Putin did not clear his schedule for the discussions and had picked up the U.S. president's call from a school for gifted children, which he was touring. Trump has pinned his hopes on ending the conflict on a personal bond with Putin, even as he shows growing frustration with the Kremlin leader's refusal to do a deal. "I believe it went very well," Trump said on his Truth Social network after Monday's Putin call. Recounting his call with Putin to reporters later, Putin said, "If I thought that President Putin did not want to get this over with, I wouldn't even be talking about it. I just pull out. I think he's had enough."
My little conversation with a nice gentleman named Vladimir Putin. But we had a good talk, and I think that progress is being made. 5,000 young soldiers are being killed every single week on average. Can you believe 5,000? And it's actually a number probably worse than that, in addition to other people that are being killed in towns. And we're trying to stop it. It's a bloodbath. It's an absolute bloodbath. I've seen satellite pictures that are so bad, so horrible, and that's to think that in this day and age we're living with this horrible thing that's going on, and we're doing the best we can. This was not our war. This was not me. We're doing something from the last administration. How they allowed that to happen? It wouldn't have happened. It would have never happened. And the Ukraine-Russia wouldn't have happened. But I'll tell you what else wouldn't have had. October 7th would not have happened. This was a terrible thing also. A lot of bad things happened in the last 4 years. But good things are happening now. We had a tremendous visit in the Middle East. We went to Qatar. We saw Saudi Arabia, all the top people in UAE. And we brought back about $5.1 trillion. That's not bad. That's not bad. And it's being credited as one of maybe the most successful visit that anybody's ever made to any place. There's never been anything like this. Hundreds of planes, big wide-body planes ordered. Boeing, getting them from Boeing, but I think an order of 148 planes. It's a lot of 777s. Those are the big ones, or the 787 Dreamliners, and orders of everything. The AI is going wild. I hope it's as good as people say, because otherwise some people are going to be pretty disappointed. But it seems like it is. A lot of smart people are doing it. But massive orders into our country. We did 1.4 trillion in one case. We did 2 trillion in another case. Numbers that nobody's ever really heard of before. And our relationship is fantastic with those 3 beautiful places. I mean, they're incredible. Money is like no place else, probably anywhere.
In a surprising diplomatic shift, Russian President Vladimir Putin made rare, candid remarks following a 2-hour phone call with U.S. President Donald Trump on May 19th. For the first time in a long while, Putin sounded almost conciliatory. Speaking to Russian media late Sunday, Putin called the conversation substantive and candid, and hinted that Moscow may be ready to return to serious peace talks over Ukraine. In a notable admission, Putin said Russia is prepared to work with Ukraine on drafting a peace memorandum, covering everything from settlement principles and ceasefire terms to a clear timeline for peace. He also confirmed that the previously stalled Istanbul talks have resumed, a major signal that Moscow is edging back to the negotiating table, and in a move bound to stir controversy in Washington and Kyiv. Putin openly thanked Trump for supporting the renewed dialogue, while blaming Ukraine for earlier breakdowns in the process.
The conversation with President Donald Trump indeed took place and lasted more than 2 hours. I would like to note that it was very informative and very frank and overall, in my view, very useful in this regard. First, I thank the President of the United States for the support of the United States in the resumption of direct negotiations between Russia and Ukraine on a possible peace agreement. On the resumption of negotiations that were interrupted by the Ukrainian side, as you know, back in 2022. The U.S. President has expressed his position on the ceasefire, and I, for my part, also noted that Russia also favors a peaceful settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. We should simply determine the most effective ways to move towards peace. We agreed with the U.S. President that Russia will suggest and is ready to work with the Ukrainian side on a memorandum on a possible future peace treaty, which defines a number of issues such as the principles of settlement, the terms of a possible peace agreement, and so on, including a possible ceasefire for a certain period of time if the appropriate agreements are reached. The contacts between the participants of the meeting and the negotiations in Istanbul have resumed, which suggests that we are generally on the right track. I would like to emphasize once again that the conversation with President Trump was very constructive, and I highly appreciate it. The issue, of course, is for the Russian and Ukrainian sides to show maximum desire for peace and to find compromises that would suit all sides. At the same time, I should like to point out that Russia's position is clear overall. The main thing for us is to eliminate the root causes of this crisis